checks that they couldn't cash. I know.
Sounds like my ex-wife.
Yeah, something like that. Yes, recorded live Sunday, May 18th, 2025, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief over here at iTechGear.org. And joining us today, we've got the usual suspects, the former contributor editor over at Gear Diary, and, of course, the late, great Pocket now, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
Are we here again?
We are.
Good for us.
It's that time again. All right.
Good.
Just
I was needing to get my fix.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Vent from love, Chris.
Vent with love. That's
Vent
what it
from
is.
love. That's where your therapy's going to go. All right.
I'll get my soapbox out and talk
Thank
to you
you
shortly.
That's
all right.
it.
Good deal.
All right. Also joining us today, the former contributing writer at Gear Diary and currently the host of the Linux Link Tech Show and Living in the Retro Arcade podcast, and of course, editor here at iTechGear.org, Brother Joe McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just ducky. It's vacation week, and I get to drive 14 hours this week.
Woohoo!
Hey.
For the long
It's
drive.
a lot of
Anyway.
Bucky
Yay for the
stops.
vacation, but for the
Yeah, no kidding, right?
yeah, for the long drive. So,
Yeah.
and last but never ever least, the former co-owner of WUGNET Publications, and of course editor here at iTechGear.org, Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you, sir?
I'm going back to work. I'm coming out of retirement.
Are you coming out of retirement? Really?
Yeah, I am, so I can have some frickin' free time.
There you go.
There you go.
This volunteer gig and all the pro bono stuff is a time hog. That's
I hear
all
you.
I can say.
I hear you. You know what isn't, you know what's really a time hog? I'll tell you what's really a time hog. And this is something that it really just kind of, it's a flame that's 3.5 feet high. You know what that is? Burning my ass. This is
It's nice to have a hobby.
well, you know, but this is the thing with Fortnite. Again, it's coming back into the news, and Fortnite currently, as of this particular broadcast or this recording, isn't available on iOS.
In America.
In America. Yes. Well, actually, I actually think that's worldwide. To be honest.
No, well, so the story is that the initial story was that the Fortnite folks were claiming that it was blocked worldwide. It couldn't be run worldwide.
Right.
Apple came back and said, no, we only stopped the US upload.
Okay.
And because in Europe, they're not using the Apple Store for uploading anyway, they're using their own store. So they don't need,
right, because you can download the Epic Store.
Yeah, so
Europe,
the claim was that you couldn't run it anywhere, and I think that actually was proven to be wrong. You
cannot download it from the Apple App Store anywhere. All right, but
you couldn't before, yeah.
But you can get it directly from the Epic Fortnite store or the Epic Store in Europe, because you can download on your.
That is my understanding.
Okay, so you can still get it in Europe, but you have to go through the third party store. Okay,
which you've had to do all along anyway, because it hasn't been available for 5 years.
Right.
Through Apple.
Right. And wasn't this the thing? Because I've read this article, and honestly, I struggled to get through this, not because of its bad writing.
Well, I'm getting tired of it.
I mean, it's from The Verge, so it's a good source. It's a credible source. I'm just so freaking tired of hearing the CEO from Epic just piss and moan about how he has to give Apple any kind of money to be on their platform.
Yeah.
Yet he wants access to all their demographics.
Yet he wants access to all the demographics. He wants,
all the benefits of being on
on the App Store, but he doesn't want to pay for it.
So
Apple is not going to give this away for free.
Let's add a little more to this. So first of all, you understand that when this came apart 5 years ago, Apple revoked their developer licenses so they couldn't send to the store.
Right.
they have their only developer license they have right now, I believe, is out of it's either Sweden or Norway or something like that. It's one of the northern European countries.
Right.
They do not have a US based Apple developer license anymore. So when
Right.
they upload, they have to upload through the European store, which I think, or through the European developer account. And I think that's where there's some of the confusion as to what was blocked and what wasn't blocked. But the interesting follow up on but they were able to do that. But the thing that's interesting follow up on all of this is that, as we know from this, that Fortnite has gone back to the courts and said, hey, Apple won't let us do this. And now they're demanding that the court compel Apple to allow it. But here's the thing, guys. I don't think there's anything in the agreement that compels Apple to have to release the app at all, period.
No.
If they do, they have to comply with the terms of it and the terms of the court. But I don't think they have to allow it at all. I think there's anything in their legal contracts or anything that force them to allow it. And if they don't, again, let's remember, it hasn't been in the App Store for 5 years now. It's a game. Does it matter anymore? Don't know.
Well, here again, and I think this is the heart of the issue. One of the issues that is really pushing Epic to piss and moan is that they don't want to pay Apple any commissions, right? At all.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay the 15%. They don't want to pay the 30%. They don't want to pay any percent at all. They don't want to give Apple one red penny. They just don't. All right. They want to keep all the money from themselves, and they can from their own store, right?
Yes.
On in
True.
Europe and anywhere else that store is available for download. All right. In the U.S. and other countries that follow the same model as the U.S. at this point, which may be parts of Asia,
or to South America,
South America, etc. Right. If you want to get an app on your iPhone or your iOS-based device, which would be iPhone and iPad, you've got to go through the Apple App Store, and Epic doesn't want to give Apple. They don't want to pay again. They don't want to pay again like every other developer does.
So I'm making a widget, and I want to sell a widget to people.
Right.
And I had made a deal with Walmart to carry it in their stores. My widget. Okay. Yep. That means Walmart shouldn't be able to make any money from the fact that they have to carry my widget.
Oh, no. They're going to mark it up.
But no, that's understand. But that's what Epic is saying.
Oh, I understand.
That the retailer should not be entitled to anything. Now, here's the question I have: is that could Apple theoretically spin it around so that instead of turning around and saying, "Okay, Epic, you owe us this kind of money," they mark up the apps the other way? I suppose they could have done it that way.
They follow standard retail practice, which is to mark up, right?
Maybe they could have done it that way.
They buy the licenses from Epic and then they mark them up.
But the problem is somebody like Epic, what they've done is they put out the app and you download the app for free, which means Apple made nothing on that download. Right. And then they turn around and sell in-app things and say, well, it's not fair. Apple shouldn't be able to get any of that in-app stuff. That comes directly from us. Okay, but you just used them at no charge to get your mechanism to customers' devices.
To a user, right.
How is that appropriate?
Who might not have put it on their device otherwise. So.
And again, I was telling you guys in the pre-show, the argument I've heard is that, well, there wouldn't be an app store if it wasn't for these developers. Okay, I have a feeling that one way or another, the store would have existed, that it doesn't require every developer out there to comply for a store to exist. But this whole notion it's such a chicken and the egg thing. I think it's backwards to say, well, the store wouldn't exist without the developers. The store came into creation because it was asked for. That's why the store became created in the first place. And Apple said, okay, we'll put this feature into the operating system.
Right. And it was asked for by both developers as well as users, right? Both users and developers asked for that feature. We need more than web apps.
Shouldn't somebody have to pay for this? At the end of the day, it has to. I mean, why should Apple be paying for it all the time? What, to get people to the platform?
Guys, what doesn't make sense here is right this minute, Epic is telling the courts to do what we just said. But the basis for their argument is, and I'm reading this from an Epic quote, we feel the Apple's App Store policies and fees are anti-competitive and monopolistic.
But keep in mind, we have to, as we say this,
And
they're
that's
having the
bull.
same,
That's
but they're having the
BS. That's
same, but
not
they're having the
true.
same arguments with Google right now too. By the way,
Yeah, but
they're just not publicizing that quite as much. But they're having the same arguments.
Well, Larry, WUGNET was in the software publishing business for a couple of decades, right?
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have credible, verifiable experience in this particular area. All right. I want to know from that experience base. All right. Is what Epic is wanting to do credible, realistic, and is it sustainable for Apple for them to keep that Epic's model, if you will, open so that developers can throw out a platform, have it in Apple's catalog, and no money coming to them at all?
Personally, I would say no, but I'll go back to the very, very early days of our publishing company. And yeah, we did. We brought a lot of apps to light. We were the very first store ever to say a word publicly about WinZip. We pushed that thing to millions of people, and look where it got itself today.
God.
Still. But did we get paid for that? You bet your bippy we did. They didn't
Absolutely.
just come up and say, you have to do this.
You were the vehicle that allowed
that
to happen.
We offered Nico a vehicle on which to put his product, and he was quite happy to pay us nearly what Apple's making. But to answer your question,
isn't that the same thing?
Isn't
that the same thing that Apple is doing, though?
I worked with a company at the same time that did the same kind of thing, and you bundled and you charged a fee for the CD or DVD that you sent out, and what the people were paying for was your service for presenting it and making it available, is what you did, and put it in cute little packages and whatever you did with it. But I don't understand why Apple is not entitled to this. I still think that's a core point. Why shouldn't they not make something out of presenting it?
As I said in the pre-show, businesses are all about relationships. Relationships are two-way streets. If you're the only person, making something, be it money or whatever, then it's not fair. I mean, even going back all the way to the very first Windows 95 CD, Chris, and I don't know if you weren't really involved in that, I don't think, but Microsoft,
a little bit, not
Microsoft asked us to put together this CD and put 10 apps on it, which we did, and those companies made money. We paid them, but Microsoft made their cut. We made a little bit, and the developers made the lion's share. But it was equitable. And if it's not equitable, it's not business. It's not a relationship. I'm sorry.
No, I totally agree. I just don't understand how Epic can come back and say Apple is not entitled to any kind of compensation for listing it in their catalog.
I would agree that if their argument was, well, it's too much or it's not a fair amount, that'd be a different argument. But that's not the argument they're making. They don't want them to make anything.
I mean, would you walk into Walmart and if you found out the price that Walmart paid for an object, would you say, you have to sell me this for that price? They're going to call the cops or something.
Well, they would ask,
maybe.
Well, they do have a price matching policy, right? But that's a retail process, right? That is a physical brick and mortar retail process where they say, show me your proof that you've got this, you could get this somewhere else at that price, and I will give it to you for that price. But that's
a different animal. Yeah.
It's a different
totally
animal.
Different.
And again, that's not what they're saying here. So there you go.
I'm like Chris G. I'm so tired of listening to this stuff.
Me too.
Well, perfect. Then let us move on. Okay.
Right.
Joel, press the button.
Here we go.
Welcome to the ship show. Every single day, a new flavor.
Oh, isn't this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful?
Wonderful, wonderful.
It's a wonderful.
So,
And a tool. Yeah, no, this is the shit show that is Apple Intelligence. And so, Joel, talk to me a little bit about what's going on.
So the video in the show notes is from Snazzy Labs, and he has a really good detailed reason why Apple Intelligent is such a shit show at this point. So you got Federighi kind of pissed off, and the guy, it's all these things.
Well, what's really cool about this particular video, really cool about this particular video is Snazzy Labs takes you through the actual history of what happened with the how did Apple get Siri? It was actually an acquisition, right? They did not create Siri. They acquired the technology. They acquired the assistant. And from their perspective, at least in the beginning, it was about trying to complete simple tasks easier, not necessarily about search and questions and answers. That came later. Initially, it was about, hey, hey, S, do this. Hey, S, do that. We know what's the weather like today is a great one, right? It was a task. All right. Can you effectively, activate this app and get me the forecast? All right. And it did that for you. All right. It takes you through the entire history of what happened from when it came there to the recent firings of and rehiring of some folks. It takes you through all of the back and forth and all of the infighting and what happened. And this is if you guys, when I say you guys, I mean our
you guys,
you guys. Right?
Okay.
I mean our listener here. All right. If you can go, if you don't watch YouTube videos, you need to watch this one. All right, They did a great job here going through the entire history. And what it comes down to basically, the term shit show is a really accurate sort of description of what's going on. The amount of infighting that has been going on between 2018 and now, all right, during the last 7 years of quote unquote Siri development is absolutely mind blowing.
And that's why it sucks. Anyway.
And that's why it sucks. But you guys have got to see this thing. All right. Yeah. Because oh my God. All right. I don't, at this point, I mean, Tim Cook is the man, and they say this in the video. Tim Cook's management style is, hey, my direct reports need to work out their issues between themselves. I'm not going to act as a referee. You guys are adults. Figure it out. All right. Do the right thing and get it done. And they haven't been. In fact, it's gotten so bad that Craig and his magic hair have gone and created a AI ML group inside of software engineering that directly competes and
the Apple AI ML team.
The Apple AI and ML team that's out there right now trying to get this thing done.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, keep in mind now what we've done since too. What Apple has done is taken the head of what was the Vision Pro head, and he's now running with the ball on that whole thing, trying to put it back together.
Trying to, and I don't necessarily know if that was the right choice. Honestly,
we'll see.
Yeah. People keep on asking, Chris, is AI, is it ready for prime time? Should I count on AI to do this, that, and the other thing? Can I put AI in my organization and expect it to deliver on all of the quote unquote promises that I'm hearing that are out there? The short answer is no. All right. Will it do something for you? Yes. Is it going to solve all your problems? No. Does it still need human intervention? Yes. All right. Is it possible that I can go ahead and save $1 bajillion and cut my staff and cut my headaches? Well, you can cut your staff. You're going to increase your headaches.
Can I have a piece of that bajillion, by the way?
No. Get your own.
Get your own bajillion.
Yes. The point here though is, is it the know all end all that I'm hearing a lot of people say that it is. No, it's not quite ready for prime time. All right. There are some LLMs that are out there and providing and working with AI engines or other kinds of apps and programs like Google's Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. And as much as Copilot sucks, and it does, it's a hell of a lot better than Siri is right now. All right.
Yeah.
As much
but
as
let's keep in mind they're only doing a small part of what we would call the AI umbrella or equation of tasks. It's not doing all of the things that we're expecting Siri to theoretically do.
True, but the problem here is that the amount of infighting is so bad.
Oh, huge. Yeah, I get it.
Is so bad that if Tim doesn't himself step in and slap both of these guys hard, all right, and get their attention, they're never going to stop the feuding. And
Probably
this,
not.
And Apple Intelligence is going to go nowhere.
Yep.
All right. The concern that I had, they went back and forth with models of, a local model and a cloud model to a singular, all-encompassing model that this thing is just going to go ahead and get and then back to a local and a cloud model. These guys don't know these guys don't know what direction they're moving in. They have absolutely conflicting leadership with everything that they're doing, all right, and how they're doing it. And they have absolutely no idea where the finish line is. They don't know. It's not that they don't have a definition of done. They don't even know how to spell the word done, all right, in order to be able to get or look up a definition. They have no clue as to what they're doing, how they're going to get there, or what the product at the end of the day is supposed to look like.
They can't agree on anything. I mean, it's
and if they don't get this together, because they, like everybody else, they went ahead and they marketed their product, the iPhone 16. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It was made for Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
All right. The device, the phone, the software, everything wrapped around it was made Apple Intelligence.
And let's add another layer to this, Chris. Let's add another layer to this, because the reality is, while these groups were disagreeing with each other about how to approach this, the marketing people weren't really communicating with that marketing people at all. Marketing people took a shot at it, and guess what? They got it wrong, which just compounded the problem.
And that happens all too often. Typically not with Apple, but this time it did.
But this time it did. Apple usually avoids these things. You're right, Larry. But this time they didn't. They got themselves caught in the middle.
Absolutely. And the thing that bothers me here, and I think the thing that concerns the guys not only at Snazzy Labs, but just about any pundit anywhere else, is how the hell did this happen? This is Apple. I mean, throughout all of this, all right, they told you exactly what Apple Intelligence was going to do, when it was going to do it, what releases of iOS 18 were going to put this in place. It absolutely, positively has killed their credibility about announcing abilities and products before they are actually ready to ship. They wrote
don't you think
that their asses couldn't catch.
But you know what? Apple used to not say anything about what they were doing. They just released it and then talked about it.
No, but if you'll remember, in October
maybe they should go back to that.
Right.
October of last year, remember the TV ads that popped up? It said,
"Oh yeah,
iPhone 16 Pro, made for Apple Intelligence."
Yes.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yes. No.
This is
which we hope will get ready by then. But
I think they were better when they were more secretive.
Well,
I agree with you.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with secretive. They had a clear product direction. All right.
They had a marketing statement. They didn't have a clear product direction.
Not for this. Not for Apple Intelligence. You're right.
Oh, understood. Understand.
Previous to Apple
I
Intelligence,
think they gambled
had a clear
that
product
they would have
direction.
it, and they lost. That's what I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I do too.
They had a clear product direction. They knew where they were supposed to go. They knew what it was going to do, and they had a roadmap to take them there.
They
All right.
couldn't get there.
Not with all
Not in
of
the
the
time
back
frame they
and
wanted.
forth infighting, scrapping of plans, remapping things out, the establishment of a secret, society group in Federighi's group, where he went and he hired hundreds and hundreds of AI machine learning LLM guys to come in and build it himself. Why? Because he felt he was the only one that could do it, because everything else was screwed up. So where does that leave us at this point but doing the cha-cha? All right, we're going back and forth.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we burned ourselves out here, kids.
Yes.
Yep, we
Well,
have.
at least I think I've chopped. I've now got a pile of sawdust where the soapbox once stood.
Oh, good for you. Good
But
for you.
honest to God, this is absolutely the biggest shit show I have ever seen, and unfortunately, it's coming from the one place you would never expect it to come from.
But you know what? I think sooner or later that was going to happen to us, because they've had a really lucky streak or track record.
Well, they were
a couple
overdue.
misses. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, they were overdue.
They were overdue, but honestly, they had it together so well.
Yeah, this
you never expected that bill would ever come due from them. So
no. Well, here we go. Now,
all right, let's talk about something.
And hopefully,
happier.
one last thought. Hopefully,
yeah,
we'll get some clarity in WWDC in a couple weeks. So that's my hope. We'll see. I hope so.
Anyway. I don't know. Rumors are saying that it's just going to be not talked about a lot.
It might be, but even that is some clarity, kids.
It is. You're right.
Well, yes, because we're going to keep our mouths shut until we're ready to show you something that works. Mm-hmm. Fabulous. And actually, I'd love Tim to come say that almost exactly. Hey, this Apple Intelligence thing, we're going to keep our mouths shut until we have something that works.
Do a mea culpa of some sort.
We've learned our lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
A mea culpa would do them good.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's talk about something that's a little happy.
Let's talk about something else.
All right.
A little bit happier.
Now, CarPlay has been something that all of us have really, really been up on, right?
We do.
Or Android Auto.
Well,
those kinds of things, right? Those CarPlay, they're calling it CarPlay Ultra, right? There's been a trial that delivers a deeply integrated experience. And Larry, talk to me, baby. Give me something good.
Well, I mean, I don't know how good this is, but we're in the technology space where the four of us live every day. We have been waiting for this new version of CarPlay, and now that it's out, and now we know it's called CarPlay Ultra, we've been waiting with bated breath, but in my humble opinion, now that it's arrived, oddly, it's not that big a deal. If you look at what it is, there's not a lot of new features. It's a whole bunch about integrating CarPlay with your car's particular clusters and displays. So in other words, if you're in a Kia, all the CarPlay stuff, when you talk to Siri and have it put stuff on the screen, all of that is going to be displayed in the car's native display user interface and user the experience is the same, the way it moves through the different screens. If you have an Aston Martin, if you can afford one, or soon to come Kia, Genesis, or whatever, each version of CarPlay Ultra will look different. Totally different. They'll all do about the same things that it's doing now.
It's going to have the standard Apple quote unquote CarPlay UI, right? It's going to have that UI.
It'll still have it. And they're saying that is the big deal. To quote Apple, the next generation of CarPlay, this one, gives drivers a smarter, safer way to use their iPhone because it deeply integrates with the car's systems, showcases the unique look and feel of the instrument cluster. Therefore, when you become familiar with your Cadillac CT5 or whatever that Chris drives, he's going to look at the CarPlay stuff. It's going to look exactly the same. It's not going to be that recognizable CarPlay screen, but that screen will still be here for those cars that don't have the integration. And by the way, Mercedes has just recently said, thanks, but no thanks. We're not going to play.
Really?
BMW with OS 9, which I have, their latest version, they were going to play. They said, no, we can do it fine without it. So
Really?
we'll just keep the old version because it makes the requirements that Apple puts on the car software display developers is too much. It makes them rebuild, retool, make taller screens. I mean, my screen is literally 15.6 inches wide and 9 inches tall, and it's not big enough for CarPlay
It's
Ultra.
it's even
That's
more than that,
huge.
All
Larry.
right.
It's even more
It
than
is.
that. And it's more
Yeah, it
important
is more.
because basically what has happened is for this to work, as you just said, it's very deep integration with the car. That means the
Yeah.
manufacturer of the car has to present information to Apple that they have been resistant to do.
Yes.
So it
Ah,
requires their APIs to be open to Apple to an
well, of
extent, and
course,
they don't
yeah.
want that.
All right. I want to
So
give Joel. Joel's been
that's
sitting
what
on
it's.
something over here.
Oh, have you?
He has me. He's been wanting to say
Cool.
something. Go ahead, Joel.
Well, it's supposed to, like make your cluster look like Apple did it. And it's like,
Right.
is that really something people want? I mean, that's
Well, actually, it doesn't. No, it makes it. They want. It makes it. If you have a BMW that has a certain look and feel to all the displays and menus and stuff, CarPlay Ultra will look like that, not like Apple.
right.
Apple's morphing to the car. Is
Apple's
what
morphing to
Apple's
the
saying.
car. Okay. Apple's
Yep.
morphing to the car, not the other way
Yep.
around.
No.
Well, then I misunderstood. The
No.
CarPlay Ultra
Apple.
was supposed to be.
I'm looking right at Apple's statement here on my screen, and it says we're making this thing look like the car, so you, the driver, can feel more comfortable and not have to change your way of thinking between car display and Apple display.
Okay.
We want
So
to keep it safer for you.
safer. All right. So then what does the standard CarPlay screen look like then? Is it going to be more morphed towards the look and feel of the OS in the car?
No, it's
I
like the current CarPlay screen, if my understanding.
I think if you are not one of the car manufacturers who's bought into this, it's going to look a whole lot like it does right now before
Yeah.
All right, but
Ultra.
if you are you driving one of those cars that has bought in,
Then you won't see that screen. You will see all of those features and things, but they will be integrated into your existing manufacturer screen,
well, then,
which I think is a great idea, but it doesn't really. I read the
Because,
list of features. There's nothing new. It
I was going
doesn't
to
do
say
one
then
thing
what
new.
is new and what is new, cool,
but
and
they're
Nothing
lovely?
new.
they're integrating. You're going to be able to display some of the car's information on those screens. If your car
Right.
has, for example, an outside thermometer, you cannot display that in CarPlay today. You have to exit CarPlay to see the temperature on the regular
Right.
display of the car. Those kinds of things will be integrated. That means that
It'll
auto
be a
manufacturers have to
two-way.
share.
Right. It'll be a two-way
Yeah,
integration.
Yeah, they have to
like
share
bringing,
information.
right?
Joel,
Like
go ahead.
bringing Sirius XM right into the Apple interface in the CarPlay.
Right.
Right
Right.
now, I mean, I have Sirius in my car, but guess what? I don't use it that much because it doesn't work with Android Auto. I mean,
Well, I
You have
have
to
to give, in BMW anyway, it is integrated so great that I can ask Siri to play something on, I can say, play channel 359 on XM. And it does it. It really does it. So they're making the strides, but
it'll do
I
that.
don't think that would have happened in our other car. I don't.
Right, but it'll do that too on Android. But guess what? It goes to the Sirius app, not to the radio in the car.
Correct.
So,
Well, maybe these are the things
Yeah,
that's
see,
going
and
to be part of
that's
that
what I'm.
two-way integration.
the difference, and it's probably less of an issue now than it used to be since I have unlimited bandwidth on my phone. For the most part, on my Verizon phone, I have the unlimited plans. So me streaming Sirius through my phone, no big deal. But it's the fact is you got the satellite hardware in the car, and it should show up in the Android Auto display, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's about the auto manufacturer sharing with Apple or Google and them sharing back. If they don't do it,
And
it doesn't
if
work.
this was an easy thing, there would be more people lining up to play, but they're
Right.
not. So far,
Well,
there's only about 6 car manufacturers
and one of
that do it.
And
one of the
really
challenges,
expensive ones too.
yeah, one of the challenges is that each of these manufacturers is not using the same component manufacturers behind them. So everybody has to develop it differently for every one of these
And
sub
doesn't this
manufacturers.
limit the car manufacturer in years to come too? Because they have to go,
Potentially.
well, we can't develop for what we want to give our users and new features next year because now we got to hold back to
Well,
fit
that's
with
been GM's
Apple.
argument, or part of their argument as to why they're not getting on board with this.
Right.
Their entertainment system is actually Google based under the hood. It's kind of a mutant form of Android and all that going on, but it's not really compatible with anything anymore going forward.
Right.
So they've decided to go their own way, and I think that's part of the reason why. And I think it's also part of, and I think the bigger thing that we haven't brought up, that's much bigger thing, is that you're going to get usage information based on the car and whatnot. They don't want to share that. That's demographic data that they don't necessarily want to share. And the car manufacturers want to hold that close to the vest because they want to sell services. GM wants to sell you OnStar. GM wants to sell you, all their services. And if you use CarPlay, you aren't buying the GM services as much.
It's possible that Apple may have access to that data, and therefore, that is a after sale add-on
Right.
that the car manufacturer.
I think
may
ownership
miss
and
out
access
on.
to that data is a much bigger long-term issue for these manufacturers than anything else. And, because again, even a car manufacturer understands that, just like computer manufacturers now, the long-term value is not the sale of the computer, it's the sale of software and services afterwards. The car manufacturer is seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's why they want to hold on to this.
A couple of days ago, I signed up to give them $5.99 a month just so I could have the upgraded auto parking stuff where I could stand out there and drive the car into the parking space.
Oh,
and
please.
watch
BMW is the one that wanted to charge you for your seat heater to work.
They
wanted to charge you a subscription fee. Come on. This is the kind of crap that these manufacturers are pulling. But these are these are the kinds of things that the car manufacturers are trying to pull. And so that's why they don't want to participate in this stuff. That's really what it comes down to at the end.
Well, that is where the money is. I mean, look at
Absolutely.
Apple.
Right.
I mean,
so this is one of those things where, the Apple Car was a big Project Titan was a big, huge thing for Apple.
You're right.
A few years ago, getting into a vehicle and not necessarily creating a vehicle, but they did pursue that for a while. But getting into the guts and the integration or the data that was all about the car, right? Was this CarPlay is what this CarPlay Ultra kind of turned into. I have no idea how this is going to play out or whether or not it's even going to be a thing. It may actually turn out to be a dud.
Yeah.
I mean, it may absolutely
that Apple's
go
not
absolutely nowhere. And
they're not going to give up on putting CarPlay in the cars that don't want to play with this. You're always going to have CarPlay.
Well, no.
Except if you have
you're
a
always
GM.
going to have CarPlay, right? Because you want to be able to go ahead and control your phone and your media, blah blah blah, while you're driving. I think it's an important tool, and I won't buy a car that isn't CarPlay or Android Auto compatible. I just won't.
This is a very, very important point, actually. When I set my new car up a couple of months ago, one of the questions going through the setup was, when you ask to when you want your phone to work, do you want it to work through the BMW app or Siri? And you pick right then. And from that point on, it uses it no matter which ecosystem you're in. If you're in the BMW Total Navigation and you say call Chris Spera, it's going to call it on Siri,
which is absolutely just fine.
I love that.
But again, I want to have the option, because 9 times car manufacturers are not software developers.
Nope.
All right. And they've proven over the last 20 plus years that they are horrible at it. I want my media interface to be either CarPlay or Android Auto, please. All right. I don't want to give it over to the car manufacturer because it's going to suck. All right. I know it's going to suck. I'm a software professional. You're a software professional, Larry. You've done this, your entire career. You know what's happening and what's up with this. Letting car manufacturers completely control the integration with the phone is problematic. They've got to figure out some common.
We don't want to go there. No.
Well, let me make it clear. The car manufacturer doesn't. They come up with specs and they turn it over to a subcontractor. They do not develop these systems themselves.
Well, even still, all right. Even if they shop it out.
The point is, there's even another layer, and it gets more complicated. That's what I'm saying.
The problem that I have is that the car manufacturer is going to be the source of the software requirements, and they don't have anybody, and they don't have anybody on staff that knows what the hell they're doing. All right. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to go ahead. They're going to cut costs. They're going to do the best that they can to get that done on the cheap, and they're going to farm it out.
Yeah, they're not going to sub that out to the best developer on the block.
No, they're not. They're not. They're not going to. They're not going to have the best developer on the block. So they're going to screw this up. I've seen it time and time again with Toyota and Honda and other manufacturers before they went, okay, fine, CarPlay. All right. Their entertainment or infotainment systems were horrible. All right. And it finally got to the point where, okay, I'm going to take the stock radio out and I'm going to put a third-party radio in that is CarPlay compatible. And, you lose a lot of functionality that way. I lost my satellite radio. I lost my integration with my car computer. But at the end of the day, I'm a little happier while I'm driving. So.
And they think they can do it now better. They think they've got their act together now. We'll see.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what you want. You know what you won't see. But
what won't I see?
It's according to the current U.S. administration. They don't want Apple to build iPhones in India. So,
that's true.
Larry, help me out with
I'd
this.
rather have them build them in India than in China, but
I agree.
I would agree with that too, but he just doesn't. I don't think he stipulated where they're being built now. It was anywhere but the U.S. and yeah, he does say that. And Mr. Trump also wants everyone in America to buy a car here made in America. Well, and if you don't, by the way, he'll make the tariffs so high your wallet will never stop hurting. But I don't know. I researched this a little bit. There are 3 different articles that like we talked about in the pre-show, probably base their articles on the same evidence. But these 3 articles indicate that the price of a basic iPhone, not the Pro, the basic iPhone, if made in America right now, would cost a minimum of $3,500 and $3,512, I think one of them said. I'm sorry, but count me out for that. I'm not paying that kind of money for a basic phone. Who would?
No one would. No one would. But the background on this, again, just to go just a tad, just one scratch on the surface, if I can, is it's not that there's anything wrong with India. It's not really that there's anything wrong with China. It's not that there's anything wrong with South America or Brazil, where Apple also has wherever. All right. The current administration wants Apple and other big American tech companies to build here in the U.S. They want them to invest in the manufacturing backbone in the United States. And unfortunately, we let that go well over, 50, 60, maybe even 75.
That train left the station so long ago that they'll never
decades
get
and
it
decades
back.
and decades ago. All right. To the point where you're going to come on in just a couple more decades. You're going to come up on 100 years of that train leaving the station. All right. Yep. So the manufacturing backbone in the United States has atrophied to the point where it can't build much of anything without upping the price to a point where the average American will not be able to purchase the products that are built here.
But don't get that totally out of context. There are a lot of things we do build in this country that are
There
great,
are.
great products. We've built them here
We do.
forever. They're
That is
American
true.
companies, and those companies won't let them
But
go outside.
keep in mind, us using other countries as the source of building these things has
Yes.
benefited American companies as well. And
That's
it's enabled
right.
us, and
Absolutely.
it's enabled us to sell into markets that previously we couldn't sell into. So we seem to forget that side of the equation a lot. But
Right.
we were able to do
Agreed.
that because we did that. So there's two pieces to this thing, and it's kind of a mess. And quite frankly, I think that, again, people in politics often ought to stay out of certain businesses like economics because they don't get it.
Well, it's
But-
not just economics, but I mean anything related to technology. All right. The application of technology.
This would be
the
non-technology too. Any
creation of
economics.
technology, the manufacturing of technology. The United States government and most governments on this planet
Most governments, quite
get
frankly.
the F out of the way, because again, you don't know what you're talking about. There's no way that you're going to be able to get it here in America. All right. And trying to force the hand, like unfortunately President Trump is in this case,
For the moment, yeah.
is going to be problematic, because the iPhone
yeah.
is a budget phone. It's supposed to be a budget phone. The
Base
iPhone
one, yeah.
16, the base one, that would be the iPhone 16 in this current
Well-
time frame would be the 16 and the 16 plus. They're supposed to be budget phones. They're supposed to be
And let's-
under $1,000
And
starting.
let's throw another piece of this. If let's say the iPhone was made here and it's $3,500, even if it was the high-end iPhone,
Yep.
we won't pay it for an Apple Vision. You think people are going to pay it for a phone?
No.
It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen.
No.
People would just stop buying them.
And as much as I
Absolutely.
agree
And everybody would shift to Android because they're going to be that much cheaper. All
As
right.
much as I agree with Trump, I'd like to see the iPhone built here. The
Agreed.
realities of it happening quickly is just not it. No,
Well, it's not even
about
best.
it's about as likely as Intel. All
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Or TMSA building chips here, manufacturing chips here. It's not going to happen. Why?
No.
Because it was of all of the building and training and hiring.
Yeah.
It's going to cost too much. The company
it's
has to make
un-
that.
Even if you put that in place free, Chris, it's not going to happen because you cannot find 25,000 people to sit on little four-legged stools for 8 hours a day for $5.30 an hour and meticulously put together iPhones.
And you
8
can't
hours
replace
a
it-
day?
You can't
If
replace
you
it
think
with,
it's happening here, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
8
And you
hours a
can't-
day.
Make it 12.
And you
Make
can't
it
replace
12.
it.
They're still not doing it.
well, or them automating it quickly because
That's what I'm getting
Yeah,
at. You can't do
right.
any of that.
Correct.
Well, even if you could do it
I mean, you
quickly, the
got
expense
people-
of it.
really matter.
You have
Yeah.
people screaming that they want $22 an hour to flip burgers at the
Oh,
Arches.
please.
Yeah,
Please.
Okay,
I mean,
those.
they're going to be
no, I'm sorry.
replaced with a robot far quicker than a robot making an iPhone.
yeah. So
Yeah, but even so, a robot can't make an iPhone that cheap either because a robot
No.
costs money.
That's right.
It has to be kept up to date,
Time and all that other stuff.
and it has to be kept up. It has to be maintenance. All those things cost money.
right.
Yep.
So
I don't know, even in the industry where Chris is, in the automaking industry, I have
right.
a very dear cousin who spent his entire life as a lead electrician, foreman. He ended up in a GM plant. And he will be the first to tell you that you cannot automate everything on that line.
You
can't
cannot
do
automate
it.
everything.
No.
No,
You have to have human input.
You do. Even for anything, you're going to need human intervention. You're
And-
going to need human supervision. You're going to need somebody human
And those people cost a lot of money. They're not cheap, those people that support that stuff. So yeah, it's not going to happen soon, if ever.
Right. And
we're at a point already in this country where bigger companies are siphoning off. I mean, they're kicking the people out. I mean, we're going to talk about that later today.
Later on, we are.
Yeah,
and even though Apple is investing $500 billion, that's 500 billion, that's $500 billion into the U.S. over the next 4 years, which includes a new factory in Houston where it will manufacture servers. All right. It's not going to be the big production that the current administration wants. It's not going to be the devices, the iPhones, those things, the iPhones or the iPads, those things that are going to push people to buy, quote unquote, American. All right. It's not going to happen.
He'd be better off doing something like setting up a plant to make iPhone cases, because that's a lot less tech needed.
Okay, how come he doesn't want Google to build the Pixel Pro in Texas? I mean,
I don't.
Probably does.
He
probably
would.
It doesn't have the visibility, kids. It doesn't have the visibility. It's all about. It's all about getting eyeballs to news stories.
Right.
Yep, you're right.
Google's Pixel 9 doesn't draw the eyeballs to the news stories the way Apple does.
Absolutely.
The volume isn't there.
No, it's not. Unfortunately. All right, because Google makes a quality product.
They do.
But
they do, but not. They don't. They don't make a quality product here. They don't make it here.
Well, they make here. Meaning the instant.
I know what you mean. I'm teasing you a little bit. They don't make it here.
Stop being a putz.
Bitch.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead, move us to the next story, which is at the end of our segment. The Vision OS 3. All right. And this is kind of cool. This is actually kind of cool. Vision OS 3 is supposedly going to let you scroll through stuff with just eye movements. Now talk to me, Chris, because you currently
have a Vision OS. You have a Vision. Yeah.
Yes, you have a Vision. And you bought it. Let's get it straight, because we're not made of money here.
We're not wealthy.
All right, we're not wealthy, and we are currently still unsponsored. But you bought the Vision Pro, the AVP, used. All right,
I did.
And you bought it from a third party market. So cool. Talk to us. I mean, what is going to happen with this new innovation?
Well, if it happens, keep in mind, guys, this is still an if. This is still a rumored statement. We'll know. Again, we're going to hear about it really soon in the next few weeks at WWDC. I'm sure if it's going to happen in Vision OS 3, we'll hear about it then.
Right.
But here's the idea. So today, when you use the Vision Pro to scroll or move around or whatnot, you look at things with your eyes. It uses eye tracking to see what you're looking at, to determine what you're looking at. And that thing sort of highlights on your screen. And then you tap your thumb and forefinger together and activate whatever it is you're looking at. So if you want to scroll, what you effectively do is look at the scroll bar on the screen. You tap the fingers together and drag them up or down and sort of fling.
But you have to put the fingers in front of you, right?
Yep. And they don't have to be in front of you. They can be anywhere in your scope of vision, because there's cameras below, above, around you.
But that's my point.
They can't be behind you, but they can be almost anywhere else.
It has to, the cameras on the goggles have to be able to see you tapping your
fingers. They have to be able to see your fingers. But let me make it clear that they do an incredible, when you compare them to other devices that try to use hand tracking, this is like a whole level above it. I mean, its ability to see your hands and know what your hands are doing is way better than anything that's out of Meta right now, for example. Okay. It's much more precise, exact, correct, that kind of thing. Not perfect, but way better. So you can have them sitting, literally your hands could be sitting in your lap and you could tap and it knows you did it. It knows you did it. You don't have to lift your hands in front of your face or anything.
Right.
But the point I'm getting at, so the question is, how are they going to do this? I don't know. They haven't really talked about the mechanism, about how they would do this, but there are things in the accessibility settings that let you look at something, and if you look at it for a certain period of time, it'll activate. There's things like that can do that.
Because the cameras are going to follow your eyes.
It'll see if you keep looking at something for certain. Yeah, so I'm wondering if they're going to play some game on that or some variation on that to get this to work. I'm very curious to see how they would do this that doesn't make it more awkward.
Well, this is
or,
Chris, do you think this could be a follow-on to, like, right now I can read a book, or I've got an app that's a recipe manager, and if
sure.
I'm hands off, I can blink my right eye, it'll turn the page right, keep turning it right. Blink my left eye, it'll turn the page back. So
It
that
could be something.
technology
It could be
is
something like that. Yeah.
it's in this iPhone right now.
Well,
That
I was
technology.
also going to say that this kind of technology that allows folks that are either quadriplegics or some other
Yeah.
kind of to select letters, type out things, or select
Yeah.
potential words in predictive text in a sense, so they can actually speak to somebody, right?
Yeah.
If they can't actually talk, somebody like Stephen
And you
Hawking.
can do that now in Vision
Right.
OS. If I look at, so if I'm like a search bar on Safari, and there's the microphone next to the search bar, if I look at that for a second or tap my fingers,
Yeah.
then I say what I want to say, and it puts it in the address field. I don't have to type it out necessarily.
Right, but the point that I'm making is this isn't an innovation in new technology. This is a reapplication, or a change to
this is more
technology.
evolutionary.
Well, and what I'm
Yes.
trying to say is, if they're going to do what I think they're going to do, if they do this, it's going to be a variation on some stuff that's in the current accessibility settings today.
Right.
It'll be a variation on one of those things.
Right.
It won't be.
That's what's in there now that I was
Yeah.
referring to earlier.
It is. It's in accessibility, and I think it's going to leverage some of that stuff a little differently than we do today.
Right.
And again, the precision is so cool with Vision OS. The eye precision, the tracking precision is so good that I would not be surprised to see them make this work.
That they actually should be able to do this and make it work. Now, 9 to 5 Mac, where we're pulling the story, is saying that this is currently being tested as part of Vision OS 3, according to people with knowledge of the matter. And already the headset lets users navigate the software by looking at objects, like you've been saying.
You do.
Selecting them by pinching their fingers. But this is a reapplication of existing technology from other areas. It is a reimplementation of some, or an extension
potentially
of some,
if they do what we think.
Potentially an extension of existing give me the accessibility features that are currently in place. So this is actually kind of cool. This could be a huge help for existing folks, as well as for folks that are that are in some way disabled and may be able to take this a one step further down the road. So
I think it'd be great if it works for them. I think it's going to be awesome. And even people that aren't disabled, if you don't have to have your hands doing the gestures in front of you,
yes,
for everything, the fewer things you have to have your hands doing, then you could be doing things like holding controllers and playing games, or you could be typing without having to take your hands off the keyboard, or whatever it is you might need to do or want to do.
Exactly.
It simplified. I have found that so far, every layer of the if you look at the history of the Vision OS, every layer that they've released, every major release that they've put out so far, has kind of reduced the barriers to making these things happen and making things less awkward for usability. For a different interface. I mean, you have to figure things out with a different kind of interface, and this is a different kind of interface.
Right.
So I'm getting anxious to see if this works and what it does and doesn't do, and is it turn onable and turn offable, that kind of thing. All those kinds of, if you don't like it, can you turn it off, kind of stuff.
Well, I'm certain there'll be a switch somewhere.
You hope so. Yeah. But we've seen that before. So
True.
Who knows?
True. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move us to our mobile Linux segment, which is unfortunately a little light this week. We've only got the one story.
It's because Microsoft's so busy laying off people that nothing happening out there.
Well,
you're giving it away. Shh. Anyway,
and in one of our Microsoft stories is in a way Linux and mobile related. So there you go.
So anyway, so Microsoft is announcing a Linux distribution service. So Joel, can you help us understand what that is and what it's going to do and why it's a big deal?
Sure. It's from Stephen Von Nichols from ZDNet.
Love SVN. He is a cool guy.
Yes, I've met him in person. He's a good guy,
and I've worked with him, so he's a cool guy.
So anybody know what the #1 operating system on Microsoft's Azure cloud is?
We're not allowed to answer
Windows.
because we know.
We're not allowed to answer.
Linux. It's Linux.
It is
so
Linux.
More than 60% of virtual machine cores use Linux on Azure. Okay, so yeah, Microsoft figured, hey, might as well make it a little easier to deploy Linux on Azure. So they have, made the Azure image testing for Linux AITL available as a service to distro publishers. So this should allow publishers like Ubuntu, Red Hat, Fedora, and all the different Linux distros be able to deploy much easier on Azure with most recent versions. So,
Nice.
ATIL is built on Microsoft's Linux Integration Services Automation project. By the way, that code's been released as open source under the MIT license. So,
and AITL again is what?
ATIL is the Azure. Let's see, Azure Image Testing for Linux Service.
Right, AITL, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So that's pretty cool that they're doing that. And a lot of folks like myself, I kind of think this is pointing to, at some point, Microsoft may want to just build a Linux distro. That might.
I'm kind of surprised they haven't.
Well,
Yeah, why not?
Well, because it may actually be the death knell for Windows and Windows 11.
I think they're killing it quite fine by themselves. They don't need
They don't need any help.
Yeah, they got enough. I mean,
also get themselves spun up with something else.
The
It would be interesting.
They don't care. Well, the thing is Microsoft doesn't care about selling Windows anymore.
They
care
don't.
About selling services on Azure. They want everyone to subscribe to Microsoft 365, and that's what they want. They don't really care about Office anymore, even though it's part of everything now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough, but I think well, so the Microsoft 365 is really the sale of not only Microsoft Office 365, but also OneDrive, right? As well as Teams, right? And their whole telecommunication service.
As well as the one-time product itself.
As well as Outlook as a back-end service, all those things.
Right. So it is going to be something that they do, quote unquote, care about it, is my point. All right. But it's not the big mammoo that it used to be back in the 90s.
But they don't care what platform you come from anymore. That's the whole point. They just want to sell the service.
They just want you on software as a service. That's all they care about.
I would actually love to see, and I know this is heretical, but I would actually love to see Windows go away and be replaced by a Windowized version of Linux. All right, a Microsoft sanctioned, Microsoft created, Microsoft UI created version of Linux.
Well,
I'd love to see that.
You already have a Windowized version of Windows, for lack of a better description.
Right.
You can already get Windows as a virtual machine, as a purchase, as a service. You can do that today. So why not?
And you know something, I think we all tend to forget. If you look at the price of software subscriptions out there for anything, Microsoft 365 is still more bang for the buck than you get with nearly any other premier product.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Pit it up against Adobe and see where you come out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Very true.
Absolutely.
I mean, or anything. I mean, hell, I paid a lot more than that for other apps.
Yeah.
You get a lot for your money. I'm not trying to be a fan here. I'm just saying you do.
Well, but that's the reason why a lot of folks stay on it, even despite all this garbage that we put up with,
Very true. Very true. But I would like to see, it would be actually a really big boon for a lot of folks. Not only would I think Joel absolutely just his toes curl in half. All right. But I would actually think that it would be, I mean, if you could take the quote unquote Windows UI and Linux-ize it and then throw it on a version of Linux that Microsoft created and controlled, why not?
If we have Android shells doing anything we want under the sun today, why can't we have a Windowized shell on top of Linux?
Absolutely. Let's try that.
Run
You
the
know?
Windows APIs on top of Linux and be done with it.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah. Why not?
I think it would absolutely kind of
the
form
only
probably
company,
one of the firmest and best computing foundations ever thought about or imagined. But that's a topic for another day. I want to go
Unix works,
ahead.
yeah, I agree.
I want to go ahead and I want to move us to our
Yes.
Windows segment, but we're going to do that
Ooh.
right after this brief message. Hi. This is Christopher Spera from iTechGear.org. I wanted to talk with you today about becoming a contributing donor to the site. iTechGear.org has been around for almost 15 years. In fact, our anniversary is just around the corner on January 10th, 2025. 15 years. Where has the time gone? I've never really asked for any kind of donations for the site. It's always been about me providing value to you, a site visitor or podcast listener. The iTechGear Weekly is now in its 4th year of production, and Chris G, Joel, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin and I are having a really great time providing you with some of the best free tech talk available from time-tested original internet writers, testers, site founders, and professional writers and editors on the internet. I truly believe that our crew has some of the best and most qualified pundits and commentators on the internet today. And we're not hobbled by any kind of sponsorship or affiliated relationship or other time-bought posts. It all comes from the heart. Unfortunately, times are kind of tough. And since the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 to 2023, yes, almost 3 full years, times have become increasingly difficult for small independent sites like iTechGear.org to stay afloat. I normally do this with a portion of the salary I make from the day job. But with the IT market so tight right now, it's really difficult sometimes for many to make normal household ends meet, let alone fund a site like iTechGear that might decide to bring in a buck or two. It ain't easy. If you find any of our content on iTechGear or from ITGW to be of any value at all, I would seriously appreciate you donating as little as just $1 to the cause. While we do have a Patreon site, it's hard to keep one website up, let alone two. And since it's really only me doing the work, our Patreon site hasn't really helped us at all. If you can make a donation to the site or to the show of any amount, I'd be forever grateful. All donations will go to site maintenance, hosting, podcast hosting, and everything iTechGear related. Donations can be made to my PayPal account at chris@itechgear.org. Make a donation. We'll thank you immediately on the next ITGW episode and voice our gratitude. I want to thank you. We appreciate your consideration, time, and attention. Now let's get back to the latest iTechGear Weekly episode. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly episode number 132. They wrote checks that they can't cash. So let's go ahead and get into our Windows segment.
You do an amazing job bleeping yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead. I want to. Yeah. Anyway, I want to these first two stories. There's 4 stories here in this segment, and before we get to the end portion of the show, and I want to take these first two and I want to kind of combine them together.
Yeah.
In such a way that kind of flows pretty good. Microsoft is currently listing and publishing and republishing lists of Surface model computers that are compatible with Windows 11. Now, why are they doing this? You may ask. Windows 11 has been around for forever and a day. We know which computers are compatible with Windows 11. Yeah, but if you're running Windows 10, which leaves service, and there are no more updates, not even security updates anymore. It's completely out of service in October of this year, October 15th, I believe, 14th, 15th, I believe, of this year. You're going to need to buy a new computer. All right. And they've listed which computers are actually compatible with Windows 11. All right. They may have come with Windows 10 installed, but you can upgrade them to Windows 11. That's going to be the Surface Book 2 on the 8th gen Intel Core i5 processor or i7 processor only. And that's the 835OU i5 and the 865OU i7, the Surface Book 3, the Surface Go 2, the Surface Laptop 2, Surface Laptop 3 and 4, the Surface Laptop Go, the Surface Pro 6, 7, 7 Plus, the Surface Pro 10, the Surface Studio 2, and the Surface Hub 2S. All right. There are a number of PCs that cannot be upgraded to Windows 11. That's the Surface Book 2 on the 7th gen Intel Core i5, 7300U only. The Surface Go first gen, the first gen Surface Laptop, the first gen Surface Pro, the Surface Pro 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Surface Studio, first generation Surface Studio. You add any of those, you're buying a new machine. All right. So
if you want Windows.
Right. The extended support for Microsoft 365 on Windows 10 will continue until 2028, but that is for the Microsoft apps. That's not the operating system. You're going to be on your own. All right. So if you are a consumer with any of those, start saving your shekels. You got a couple, 3 or 4 more months.
Give it up and go buy one.
All right. Give it up and go buy one. All right. So yeah, but you know what's kind of cool is also that the Microsoft's simplified Surface lineup killed off another device. Chris, talk to me. You're on mute, brother.
So I am. I don't want to hit it. Sorry, guys. So I'm listening all along, thinking no problem. Anyway, I actually read a couple of contradictory stories. Some say that it absolutely is killing it off, and others are saying it might be killing it off. So take it for what it's worth. I again don't know which it is, but right now it looks like they are probably going to do it. And this is not unusual.
Doubt it. I wouldn't
this
doubt
is not unusual for Microsoft, but they're killing the Surface Laptop Studio 2 is what they're killing this time around.
Right. So this was the replacement for the Surface Book, right? This would have been the Surface Book 4.
Well, the Surface Laptop Studio 1 was the replacement for the Surface Book. This is the version 2 of it. They're getting rid of it altogether.
But this line replaced the
Surface line was the replacement. Right. Absolutely correct. And so they're basically saying, keep in mind they've had a long history of killing stuff. This is not unusual, but they have decided that we're done. Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me. Microsoft has originally the Surface line was a sort of experimental line, and nowadays that's not what it is. They're sort of keeping these consistent devices. The mainstream devices are the ones that they keep.
It's the Cadillac line.
Not necessarily. No, I wouldn't say it's the Cadillac. What I would say is it's the cleanest. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the Cadillac. I would say it's the cleanest because they don't use the highest processors. They don't use the highest video chips or anything.
The reason why I say Cadillac, though, is because Microsoft no longer manufactures what used to be called a signature PC, which was Windows only. True. Only those things that came from Microsoft, right? No third-party apps at all. All right.
Right.
All right.
And this is definitely part of that signature lineup. But I wouldn't necessarily refer to it as Cadillac, but it's certainly clean. You don't get a lot of extra BS on it.
It's the cleanest you're probably ever going to see or get.
So they've had a history. They got rid of their headphones. They got rid of their earbuds. They got rid of a bunch of stuff that they had.
Yep.
And I think they've decided this is where they're going with it. They're done now, and this one's done. So that will leave pretty much the laptop line, the Surface laptop,
the Surface Pro,
the Surface Pro line, the Surface laptop line, and the Go line.
And the Go line. And that's it.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's kind of where they're going to be. Yeah. And I get it. I get it, but it's kind of disappointing to see them, okay, we're going to travel down the mainstream and be done with it. That completely
they always kill the good guys,
Well, I think it's anything clever that they had or anything kind of semi-unique that they tried, which is what Surface used to be about, that's done.
Right.
That's what
Surface Book. The Surface Book was an amazing product.
Clever device. Not perfect.
You can still buy a brand new one. Brand new, never been used. Surface Book 3, 2-in-1 Core i7, 512 gigabytes, $670 on Amazon right now.
It is the Surface Book is an absolutely awesome machine.
Yeah, I wish they had just kept developing that machine, but they didn't do that.
No. The problem with the Surface Book was the detachable screen. All right,
it was a failure point there.
Yeah,
but they could have worked on that. Is what I'm getting at.
They did, and they came up with the Laptop Studio. All right, which is not a bad design.
Yeah, it's
but
not
it's
the same.
Different than the book. All right.
Yeah, it's not the same design.
It's not the same design. It's a new design. It's a separate design. Anyway.
All right, here we go.
So, alas, poor Surface Laptop Studio. We barely knew.
We knew you well. Yeah,
we knew. But what's kind of cool in terms of bringing stuff back from the Microsoft past, Windows Phone.
Isn't that clever?
Got a
GPT
update. Right? Really?
Well, let's make it clear that all along, ever since Windows Phone was discontinued by Microsoft, boo. Anyway, ever since there's a lot of people there's a lot of people who felt that way. It wasn't unusual, but they didn't sell it because apps weren't there. But there's been a kind of a homebrew marketplace for a long time now that has sort of kept it going and kept some apps running on it and things going. So it's kept the product kind of semi-viable in some ways. Not perfect, but unless you had really extravagant needs, you probably could get away with it. And this is just a result of that. So a guy has developed a chat GPT kind of interface for it. Called Lumina, which is kind of clever.
Yeah,
kind of clever.
It was, and that was actually a typo, from what I understand. It was supposed to.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Supposed to be Lumia, right? It was supposed to be the Lumia.
Oops, but it's stuck.
But it's yes.
It had a great camera. It really did.
So this phone that should have long since been dead is not entirely dead yet. It's still kind of going along. And it's still kind of doing its thing. And every now and then, I got to be honest, every now and then I plug in my old Windows phones and charge them up, and
they still run.
A good chunk of the apps still work.
I've got one or two myself. Unfortunately, I'm having a trouble. They were lower end devices anyway, but I'm having trouble getting them to jump on any kind of an available network.
Oh, okay. I have some newer ones, and they work fine. And so
they were higher models. End too, as I recall. So
they were, but I was a huge fan. You were a huge fan.
Yep,
we all loved them.
Oh,
and so I would love to have it. It makes me want to go back and investigate what the homebrew market is doing right now. Is what it makes me want to do.
It does, and I know that. I helped a number of different Windows mobile sites get off the ground. I know that I was nominated for Windows mobile devices MVP 3 times between 2004 and 2007. So whatever.
And let's not forget the big Windows site, Windows Central today started as Windows. It was Windows Mobile. It was a Windows Mobile site when it started out.
It was so interesting.
But all of us who've had one sure want one back again.
Well, they were an interesting device.
If the apps had been there, I'd still be on it today.
Yeah, agreed. And if the apps were still there,
they were still there,
and still there. All right. I don't think that at that point, I don't think that Microsoft would have dropped it. But
no. But here's the interesting thought, guys. Yeah. With the reaction, this story has actually gotten some reaction on some of the boards, and some people are saying, get over it and move on, and other people are saying, this is very, very cool. And it makes me wonder, just a thought here. What if today, if Microsoft said, you know what, we're going to revitalize this thing and bring it back out as an OS? What do you think the reaction would be if they actually put a little effort behind it?
I actually think a lot of consumers would get on that train as well as the techno guys like us. I really think they would.
I just think they never gave it enough time and didn't put enough effort into it.
Yep.
Had they done that, I think they would still be here today. I really do. I don't think it was because of any failing in the larger OS or how it was presented or anything. It's, one of the few things I thought they actually did pretty right. So disappointing, but it'd be clever. It'd be interesting to see. Well, what if they said we're going to come back with this or we're going to try again? I think they'd be more successful with this than with the
Copilot crap
with their
that they're doing?
Android attempts. No, with their Android attempts. So I think they'd be more successful with this.
Well, they would. I think that there would be a huge uptick of interest in.
I do too, and some of the APIs and things exist now to make it easier for developers to support it. So
agreed,
it might actually be workable. Anyway, I don't think they're going to do it, but this is just showing that interest has not died in this thing. That's
there's a big major reason why they aren't going to do it, and you know what that is?
Well, money and services.
Well, that, and they just cut 3% of their workforce.
Oh, yes. Good point.
They're doing that in May or this month. So, Larry, what is happening with this?
Well, we can make this one real short and sweet. According to and we've all heard this before. According to Microsoft, and I quote, "We continue to implement organizational changes necessary to best position the company for success in a dynamic marketplace." Excuse me, Mr. Microsoft. That translates to, in reality, we're not hitting our profit goals, so we're going to cut some unnecessary management positions. End of story.
Right, and this is mostly coming from middle management, is what I understand as well.
And this 3% amounts to about, I believe, 6,000 or 7,000 people is what it came out to.
That's a lot of folks. It's going to have a really crappy Christmas.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah,
and I get it because there's other companies doing the same thing, and they have already cut their plans for data centers in the U.S. and Europe. It's not just Microsoft feeling the pain economically. All companies are.
Yeah,
and so are individuals. So get over it, I guess, and move on.
So
still sad.
Yeah,
still sad to see.
Well, the only thing that workers can do now who are staying, they just need to buckle down, put in more hours, do exceptional work, and hope they keep flying above the radar.
Yeah,
absolutely, guys. Hang in there.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that was our Windows segment. I'm going to move us now to our tip of the week segment. I want to remind everybody, hey, iTechGear was founded with the intent of making technology easy for everyone to use and understand. And this team has dedicated their writing careers to this specific purpose. We're all about tips and tricks. So every week we're going to have on the iTechGear Weekly a new computing tip authored by one of these fabulous folks. And if you've got questions, requests, suggestions, or any other kind of feedback, hey, please send them to tips@iTechGear.org. If we get your tip and or suggestion or feedback, and we find it relevant and cool and enough, we'll give you your 15 seconds worth of fame. We'll get you on the air, or at least your tip. Anyway, so this week I found this and I thought this was really, really cool because I had not known that you could do this. This is a Mac OS tip. And did you know that when you're busy doing Command Tab and rifling through Windows or apps that you currently have open, they may be minimized to the dock, they may be on other monitors, or they may be just out of sight or on other desktops, doesn't necessarily matter. When you go ahead and you're rifling through those apps with Command Tab, did you know that if you wanted to go ahead and get rid of an app that you're not going to use or you haven't used in a while and just get it out of the list just to make that rifling through all that much quicker, when you hit Command Tab and you get to it, keep that Command key pressed down and then just move your finger from the Tab key to the Q key while it's on the app that you want to kill, and you'll effectively be going Command Tab, Command Tab, Command Tab. Oh, I want to kill that Command Q without letting go of the Command key. It'll automatically quit it for you. It'll close that app.
Very nice.
I didn't know it could do that.
I
did not know that it could do that, but you can do that just real quick. You can't do that on Windows, but you can do that. You can do that here. on
Very
your Mac,
nice.
which I thought was pretty cool. So there you go. You can close an app from the app switcher.
Love it.
Love it to death.
Love it to death.
Gonna move us now to our pick of the week segment because
hey,
this is a unique one. All right.
And somebody
it uniqued up on us.
Pick.
It uniqued up on us. So
yeah.
And again, before we actually get to the actual pick, I want to remind everybody that hey, our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and that we actually use and like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our growing listener base. These aren't paid advertisements or any items that we have any kind of an affiliated marketing relationship with. If they were, the editorial policy at iTechGear.org says, hey, we have to let you guys know that up front. These are things that we just sincerely believe in, and we bring them to you at the end of each show. Guys, it's coming. Why?
Because we like you.
That's what she said.
No, thank you.
What a mess.
And rare time today, rare occasion today. Chris G, you've got a pick for us. Talk to us.
I had something I wanted to share, so here we go.
All right.
So basically, I recently acquired a new MacBook Pro, and I wanted more storage, and it has an SD slot, and I thought, well, I can put a card in there, but I really dislike how on most SD card adapters, SD to micro SD, the card sticks out. From most of these, and I didn't like that. But I found online on Amazon this adapter that kind of lets you slip the micro SD card into the side of this SD card shell, if you will. Yeah. And the SD card shell is kind of cut in half, so it doesn't stick out. And it has a little tab so you can pull it out if you need to pull it back out. It's not stuck in there permanently, but it doesn't. It sits flush with the outside of the screen.
Who makes this wondrous thing?
So this is made by a company called Base QI.
Yep.
And again, it's a micro SD card adapter.
Yeah, they
work. Does it got a fingernail thing to pull out?
It does. It does. That's cool. Exactly how they did it. And it's very, very nice.
It is, and it works with 2021 MacBook Pros 14-inch and 16-inch and greater, at least the one that we've got located.
It's not just 2021. It's any of these current 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pros.
Right, and believe it or not, there are also models that you can go ahead and get at basekey.com, I believe is the site, but that will work for some Windows machine, including the Surface Book 2 and 3.
They have other models out there. Yeah, this is the model I'm using. But what I wanted to say is, as an adapter, it's been nice. It's been very clean. Right. It's been very solid. I haven't had any issues with it overheating, which sometimes happens with adapters.
Yep.
It's been a really, really good adapter so far.
I've had them for I've got one for my M1 Max MacBook. I have one for my Surface Book 3. I've had one for my 2019 MacBook Pro, 16-inch MacBook. It's fabulous. Love them.
And it makes you feel like you just got more internal storage. You don't feel like if this thing's sticking out.
It makes
you feel like dancing. So this particular model is available on Amazon for $34.99. With normal kind of prime shipping.
How about speed, Chris?
I haven't noticed any the card seems to be the limiting factor of the speed more than the adapter.
Yep.
The micro SD card that you use, so
if you use a super fast card, you're going to have
a super fast card. You're going to have a super fast drive. Yes.
Yep, and that's what I did. I put one of the high end micro SD cards in it, and so the performance I'm getting out of it is really good.
Right. So like a Samsung Evo Select. V30 card will work very, very well.
Yeah, I would recommend anything V30 or higher. Anyway, anything V30. That's what you want to look for,
right?
As your kind of baseline. And again, this thing does very well.
Up to 2 terabytes. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. So, and that's what we've got. So, been really, really nice, guys. Real nice.
So, well, kids, that's the show.
Good for us.
This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 132. They wrote checks that they can't cash. Recorded live. Thank you. They recorded live. Live Sunday, May 18th, 2025, live from iTechGear Central for Mr. Chris Gavula, Brother Joe McLaughlin, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. I want to say, hey, we will see you next time.